After you got back, right? There was an article that I read in the point where you said in your post that, you wanted to quit. You thought about quitting,
Yeah.
right? How did you get there? Right? What was that mental toss and turn that you were facing when you were getting home? Because man, I think when a person gets to that level, it's not the fact that you can't do it anymore, but you start to question, is it really worth it anymore? How did you
Yeah.
how did you get there, Julian?
All right. So after the 4x1 is when everything really set in. Like, yo, what's going on, man?
What's going on with you, man? You had training today?
No, actually, I was supposed to, but I wasn't feeling too well, so
Yeah.
I, I,
Sickness a
I
little
had
bit?
some gym work.
Mm.
It's a little so I have a kind of strain in my rib, so I went to the doctor today and got all that sorted out. So
Jeez, man, you're having adversity already before the season even starts, huh?
yeah, I mean it's like that sometimes, but you just deal with it. The more you do it, it's the more you learn how to deal with it. So
Julian, I appreciate the time, man. I appreciate you coming on. I want to be respectful of your time.
yeah,
Um,
man, no problem.
bunch of things I want to get into real quickly, man. But I want to start off by saying, part of the reason why I started this show was to tell the other side of the people that people don't get to see, right? A lot of people may see you on the track, they may see you doing your thing for years, but they don't know what it takes to show up consistently on that level every single day, right? They think it's easy. But I
Yeah,
actually want to go back to 2020 before we even talk about this recent year and what happened, man, because 2020, the pandemic changed a lot of things for every person in their day-to-day activities. But as an athlete, especially in the sport of track and field, the Olympics was delayed. In the height of the pandemic, Julian, what was your initial thoughts when the games got canceled? But mentally and physically, how did you stay motivated to train? Where could you train? How did you handle isolation? Tell me how you navigated through those times, man.
so first of all, thanks for having me. And so it, when I first heard that the games, first of all, there was like rumors leading up to the cancellation of the games. People weren't sure. They were saying they were pushing for it. Some people were pushing back against it, so they weren't sure. But when it got confirmed that the Olympics, got postponed, I was I was upset because I was in great shape. I was in good shape. I was running well. I was in better shape, I think, than I was this year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's actually just you don't know unless you know, and the shape that you're in this year doesn't necessarily carry forward into the next year.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got cancelled, I was like, yo, damn, I'm in great shape, and I wish it was this year, but um, I'll be able to carry the same kind of motivation forward going into next year.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'll make it work. But in terms of like having somewhere to train, we had somewhere to train. It was a little tricky how we had to work it out. So we had to cut down the group to a very small number of people and train at different times of the day to be able to and we had to do like all of our workout like at one time.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to do track work, gym work, and any other thing in between, like
All at
all
once.
at once. Yeah. So our day, and there were like curfews, like heavy. So we had to finish up our day, I think, before like
Six
2 o'clock.
o'clock. Oh,
I
geez.
think I don't remember. I don't remember exactly what time it was because there were different times at that time, and it was kind of challenging. But I'm not like I'm fine being by myself.
Yeah.
I enjoy my own company, so like I was able to deal with that aspect of it. But the longer it's stretched on, certain things became kind of a burden. Going to the supermarket was a burden. because everybody's going to the supermarket like basically at the same time because there's such a small window of time that you have to do your shopping. So those kind of things kind of took a toll, but it wasn't like overwhelming. Hold on, let me let my dog out of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't overwhelming, so I kind of dealt with it, and but it's really not much different down here right now. There's still a curfew now, and there are days like on Sunday. It's what we call a no movement day. So you can't do anything on Sunday. Only can't do anything. So it's like only like essential workers and stuff are allowed to be out, and that kind of thing on a Sunday. So it's really kind of still happening out here. So not much has really changed since the pandemic started.
Julian, sometimes we get into certain years, and usually a few months into training and the rhythm and the flow of things, we start to say, you know what, we feel good. This might be a good year, but it can also work on the other hand, and you can say, okay, this is going to be a year where I'm going to really have to dig deep, right? Leading up to the 2020 trials all over again, right? That whole year, when you restarted and got to find out that the games was finally about to be a go, how would you say training was going at that time, right? Were you fully healthy going into it? Did you feel confident again? Did you have doubts that, what if it get canceled again? Am I wasting my time? Leading up to that time, how was training going?
Training was okay. It didn't feel much different from the previous year.
Mm-hmm.
So it was okay. And, but you can't, the difference wasn't great between, what I was doing last year, the type of shape that I was in last year and the type that I was in, this past season. So I couldn't really tell that, this would be a better year or a worse year than the 2020 year. So I wasn't, and I was trying to, stay positive about, the Olympics happening. So I was training towards it. So if it got canceled, then it got canceled. But, I didn't want to put, that kind of thought into my head that, it might not happen because then I wouldn't be giving them all the training. And that doesn't make sense. So I was training with the mindset that, this is happening. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't. But I have to keep in mind that it is, it is going to happen.
You got the trials, you're running the 1, running the 2, obviously Olympics, that's how people talk about in that year, but there's a high pressure situation at trials alone because trials determines if you make the team. You had some injuries going into it from what I understand, and it may not have went exactly the way how you wanted to. What was going through your head even getting to there, right? Because the Jamaican team is one of the hardest teams to make, especially in the sprints. You know what I'm saying? So what was going through your head at that time? Because the saying, pressure makes diamonds, but also pressure can expose you for everything that you didn't prepare for. How do you handle pressure, Julian? Because you got pressure before you even get to the championships at the Olympics. What was going through your head during that time?
All right. So, I had a few injuries, come up, along the way, leading up to the championships, to the national championships. And I was really just trying to, work at, getting to the best shape that I could get to before the trials. And I thought I was in good shape at the trials. I don't think I performed. I don't think I was in the best shape, but I think I was in good shape. And even though I don't think I performed as well as I should have, I think I was in good shape. The real problem started when I got hurt in the 200 finals.
Mm-hmm.
So I got hurt in the 200 finals. Then it was a hamstring strain, but it's only that at the time of our trials, it's only 4 weeks to the Olympics. It's really 4 weeks to my event. So it was really that was really the tough part. I've seen I've seen a physiotherapist every single day. I was doing some work in the pool, trying to keep my fitness up, and I was doing rehabilitation, everything to try to get back to the point where I was at as quickly as possible. Now I got to a point where I was, paying free right before the Olympics, but I wasn't fit, especially for the 200. So I wasn't fit enough because I was fast enough at the time, but I wasn't fit enough to, run a full 200 meters. And for anybody who knows, 200-meter fitness is something different. So it's not like a 100 where, you can get away with not having as much speed endurance. If you're fast enough, you might be able to, get away with that a little. 200 is going to expose all of that if you don't have it. So the time that it took like 2.5 weeks to really get to a point where I could train pain free with the hamstring injury. So that took up a whole lot of my time. And I had basically 2 weeks, which included traveling to Tokyo to get fit or to get race fit. And I didn't get to do any races after the championships. So that kind of hurt me as well. But I got to the championship, I showed up. I didn't realize that I wasn't in the shape that I needed to be until the race itself. So when I ran in the race, it was kind of surprising to me because I didn't expect to run 21.6 feeling the way how I felt.
Yeah.
This is coming from running basically jogging 20.2 at the championships in Jamaica. Easy, right?
I saw it.
Yeah, so I'm like, yo, this is crazy. But then I think back and I'm like, yo, you really never had any time and you're really not fit. And I changed camps right after. So I changed training camps right after national championships.
Wow.
So I left MVP. So that's also something that I had to, adapt to the, different style of training and type of training and everything. So there are different factors, that played a role in my performance at the Olympics. So, I mean, but it doesn't really make it any easier to deal with. But I could look back on it and say, okay, this is why this happened, kind of put things into perspective.
Julian, I'm glad you said that because I wanted to give the base building up to my next question because, I saw an article that came out from in Jamaica and, me originally, I was born in Westmoreland, so I understand how things work, right? But the article, when I was reading it, it was talking about all the men's side of the sprinters, right? Not performing well. They underachieved. Jamaica's time is gone. And to me, whenever I see stuff like that, you see, it's easy for people to judge something that they may not have the necessary experience in what it takes to get there. Nobody goes to a championship and want to do bad and want to not perform well, right? And all the stuff that you had to go through, I didn't feel like you and the rest of the team had a fair opportunity because the team was very young, right? And you were saying you all these things leading up to it, you weren't necessarily fit in time to ready to run. But Julian, I build that base to ask this question because after you got back, right, there was an article that I read in the point where you said in your post that, you wanted to quit. You thought about quitting, right? How did you get there? Right. What was that mental toss and turn that you were facing when you were getting home? Because, man, I think when a person gets to that level, it's not the fact that you can't do it anymore, but you start to question, is it really worth it anymore? How did you get there, Julian?
All right. So after the 4x1 is when everything really set in, right? The Olympics were done. There's nothing I can do. Right. There's nothing in the world that I can possibly do right now to salvage anything from this Olympic moment, right? I was extremely disappointed. And it's especially hard when I remember I was heading back on the bus after the 4x1s, and some Italians were in like the seat right behind me, right? And they were celebrating. They just won the 4x1. So they were celebrating, and they had a good championship as well.
Yeah.
So they were celebrating and playing music, and and I was right in front of them, like extremely disappointed. And it got to the point where I put my headphones in, and I turned my music up to like the highest volume,
And you can still
and I
hear
could
them.
still hear them. I can still hear them, and I'm like, yo, Jano. And then that's when the emotions really set in, and I wasn't able to hold back like the tears. So I cried all the way back to the village. Got back to my room. I was just lying on the floor when I got back to my room. And there's so many thoughts that were going through my head.
Of course.
It's sort of like, why is this always the case with me? Some questions that I just can't find the answers to, right? Is this really for me? So you start to question yourself, you start to question your ability to have doubts, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't like to say that. They don't like to admit it, but in tough times you have doubts,
Of course.
right? And it happens to the best of us, right? So I had doubts, and it's almost like, if I put all this work in, and this is the result, why should I bother? This is not what I'm aiming to achieve, right? So if putting in all this work, this is what I get. I mean, why should I even continue? Like, is it worth it? Like, I mean, but I have some really good people on my side. I had a lot of I have some people in my corner that's always sending me positive messages and motivation, and kind of put things into perspective for me. I remember my cousin sent me the statistic of the amount of people who make it to the Olympics versus the world's population, and it was some ridiculously small percentage. And when I put that into perspective, I look at it and I say, oh, that's it's an accomplishment in and of itself, right? And I realized that me, doing what I do and coming out and being expressive, in my disappointment, that motivates a lot of people, and it kind of shows people that even people who compete with the best in the world are human, and they basically go through the same kind of things that everybody else goes through. So a lot of people really connected with that when I made my post, and I got a lot of people telling me not to give up. I've never seen myself as somebody to give up, but because I was overwhelmed with that kind of negative emotion, it was kind of that was just one of the thoughts that crossed my mind. And but I'm in a way better place now, and I'm just excited to try to put all of this behind me going into next season.
When you step away from the sport, Julian, I stepped away in 2017, so my perspective is a little bit different now because I've been out of it. But it's one of those situations where when you have time to sit back and reflect, when you're 50 years old on the veranda holding the mess, just chilling, relaxing, you'll understand that, whoa, what I've been able to do, and even to get there, is an accomplishment in itself. However, when you're a type A person who, you know what you're capable of and what you can achieve, when you don't reach the mountain, it's discouraging, it's disappointing, all right? But when you think about it, the average person, they're not willing to do and risk and sacrifice what you do in order to get there. How many people You ever hear people say January 1st, new year, new me, I'm gonna get into the gym, I'm gonna get in shape, right? And they may do it for
Yeah,
a week. They may do it for 2 weeks. They may be ambitious and do it for 2 months. But then once that 2 months come and they may not see the result that they expected right away, they're gonna stop, right? And in track and field, when you're at that elite level, everybody is good, right? Everybody wants to be great. Everybody wants what you have. So, I'm glad that you're able to reflect and get to see like, okay, even though I was in that moment, that's not where I am right now. But a lot of people don't talk about that mental side of track, especially as men, right? Men, we're always supposed to be strong. We got to press towards the mark. Um, but it's also okay to not be okay sometimes, and it's also okay to say, "Yo, I'm feeling the pressure. Yo, I need some words." And I think the relatability to that transparency of your message, that is what spoke volume because they never see Julian from that side. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So that was something that I got to see, that people were reacting to, man. Inspiration comes in many different forms, and you don't have to reach the top of the mountain to be an inspiration. Um, Let me ask you this, man, because Sunday, October 10th was National Mental Health Day. You said you're in a good space right now, um, excited going into the season. But what do you have to do for yourself, Julian, to stay there, right? Because a lot of times we'll say that we're there and we're there for a month, 2 months, 3 months. But what are some things that you have to do for yourself or realize now that helps you stay balanced every single day?
Well, first of all, I think you need to accept certain things for yourself. So in terms of, you know, you don't have to always be the strongest person in the world. You don't have to bear all the burdens. And there are people around you that are willing to help and who can provide help. So it's important that you have the right kind of people around you and in your corner. And also, I think in a strange way, well, probably not so strange. I think it was like my Olympic experience was supposed to happen like that because
Mm,
I've never felt the kind of motivation that I have now. I've never felt it like this before, right? Um, I may be close to it like my junior years when I was just stepping from world juniors to the pro level. Maybe at that point I was extremely motivated going into training, but nowhere close to as motivated as I am now. Back then, yeah, obviously I had youth on my side, and it was easier for me to
yeah, yeah,
do certain things. You can get away with, and it's crazy that I say youth on my side because I'm only 28.
exactly.
But people don't really understand, putting your body, through the stress over the years that track does. It's not easy to, maintain a certain level.
Hmm.
It's easy. It's way easier when you're like 19 to like I'd say 24, 25. Um, so it's way easier at that point. But yeah, I think it happened that way to give me a different kind of the motivation that I need. I've also been getting closer to God.
Hmm.
Trying my best to uh, seek better understanding. So I think it was kind of supposed to happen like that. But your failures don't define you. It's how you bounce back from it.
Julian, let's go back a bit to St. Andrew, Jamaica, the place of your birth, man. What do you remember most about growing up there, right? And I want to ask a side question to that too. My grandmother, in Jamaica, she used to always say things that didn't really make sense to me at that time, right? She used to say cliche things where like, yo, hard work will pay off, just not when you want it to. Stuff like that. I'm
Yeah.
like, yo, grandma, what are you talking about? That doesn't make no sense to me. I'm a 5-year-old kid trying to understand this stuff. What were some things that maybe your parents or the community or someone said to you back then that as you got older, you start to say, hold on there. It's kind of true.
Yeah. Um, um, so there's a Jamaican saying that say, yeah, like you would just say, this is me paraphrasing. if like let's say if fish come from river bottom and tell you say whatever, right? Don't they believe them?
Mm-hmm.
So that basically means like if somebody who has been there and done something tells you
Take their
something from
advice.
their experience, heed their advice. So that's something that I've definitely seen kind of play out in my life in different ways. But it it really that's the one of them that I can really say I really kind of connect with it.
Most people don't know when you started track, you wasn't a sprinter, you was a jumper. You used to do the
Mm-hmm.
long jump and get your jump on. But how did you get involved in the sport? I know a lot of times, when I got to Canada and I started running, people used to say, "Oh, track and field is all you do in Jamaica," right? But a lot of people's in
Mm-hmm.
Jamaica, and a lot of people don't do track and field. They don't get involved in it.
Yeah.
But how did you get involved in track and field? And when you got involved in it, Julian, sometimes you touch something and you think to yourself, "Whoa, this can be something," right? Did you have that feeling when you started the sport?
Not when I started. So I used to play football, um, and football is like my first love. That's
Mm,
like all day, just football. When I get home, I have my football, play football, like just all day, just football. Um, then I went to I wasn't as good at track as I was at football in like prep school. So like when I was like 11, I was mostly focused on football.
yeah.
Went to high school, was playing ball. I wasn't really interested in track at the time, and I definitely wasn't interested in the type of training that they had to do.
Everybody's
And
punishment is running, dog. I'm like, yo, it made no sense to me.
and then I one day I used to get picked up late from school. So one day after the football season, I was there, I was just sitting watching track training, and my friend was like, "Yo, why you don't? I know you used to do track in prep school, you used to do long jump and stuff. So why you don't just come train and see how it work out?" And I was like, "Yo, no, I'm good." And the coach actually, he went to the coach and he told the coach, and the coach, spoke to my parents, and he's like, "Yo, just come. If you're not working out, they're not working out, and then you don't have to worry with it. But you're not doing anything right now. You're here late all the time, watching training, so might as well just train." So I was like, "Yo, all right." Interestingly enough, that was like 2 months before Boys and Girls Champs, and I won the long jump that year.
Mm,
So I just went into training. Obviously, it's a lot different when you're a schoolboy. The type of training that you need is not nearly as it's not nearly as significant or as important as when you're a pro. But I won that year, and I was like, "Yo, yeah, maybe I'm good at this now." Um, and I won the long jump, and I ran on the 4x1 relay team, and I think we came third that year. And everybody was extremely impressed because they're like, "Yo, you didn't even train for 2 months." And I was like, "Yo, yeah, maybe I'm just good."
mm-hmm.
Right. So that's when I kind of, I took a liking to winning.
Mm,
Um, so when I always had a liking for winning, but we weren't winning when I was playing football. We got to like semifinals, I think at most when I was on the team. And we got to the finals, but we didn't win. So stuff like that. But and then the coach demanded that I come back the next year. So from that time, I was doing track and field up until like the year when Wolmer's won champs. And that year, the year when we won champs, coach was like, "Yo, no football.
no
You have to just
training.
train, just track, just track." And I was kind of upset because I was like, "Yo, I want to play ball. I've been playing ball." But he's like, "Yo, you have to give us one full year of training and see what you can do." And that year I won the 100 and the 200, and we came second in the 4x4. And I ran on the 4x4 team as well. And we won champs that year. And then I was looking at it and I was like, all right, I'm 17. Um, when I look at the football kind of development of football players from Jamaica, unless I was already in Europe somewhere, probably football is not going to work out for me in Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I was good, I wasn't in any kind of program that would get me anywhere. I'd be hard pressed to, get into a European club because, Europe is where ball play. I mean, MLS wasn't even as big as it is now back then.
Yeah.
So, I was like, all right. And at that time, we had Bolt, because that was 2010. So Bolt, just recently won the Olympics, broke the world record. There's Asafa, there's Shelley, and this was the Jamaica's heyday, and the coming to the party for Jamaica in track and field. They're like the real coming to the party. Before we had extremely talented people, but we never had success like what we had in 2008 and 9, and even 12. So I was like, all right, let's give this track and field thing a shot. Ended up being extremely good, being the fastest junior in the country, sprinting, and the second fastest junior in the world. In 2012, when I left high school, I was still a junior, but ended up being the fastest junior, the second fastest junior in the world. Unfortunately, when I went to World Juniors in the finals, I tore my hamstring. But it kind of just cemented my interest in track and field at that point. So, that's kind of where it started.
For those listening, Champs is arguably the most exciting high school event across the globe, right? It's I wouldn't be surprised if it's the most watched track and field high school event, period. Julian, I read something where in your last year, obviously you said, you were one with the times you ran 10:19 and 20.38. But Julian, I'm sure you had a lot of schools coming after you, man. Maybe you didn't, maybe you did. But those times, I know you have a bunch of American schools recruiting you to say, look, look, you can come down here. We'll give you a scholarship. We can do this. But you made a decision to stay home. Julian, why did you stay home? Right. And what were some of the things that led you to stay home and made you think that you could do well staying in Jamaica?
Well, that was an easy decision for me. When I looked at the success that we had at the Olympics, most of the sprinters and the talent was homegrown talent. So when I looked at that, it was an easy decision for me to make. It was just so simple. Colleges, I was looking at colleges. I didn't even end up doing any visits to any of the schools because my mind was already made up. So I was just like, I'll go to a school in Jamaica. I'll go to UTech. I'll go to MVP and train, and I'll see how fast I can become successful.
It was sometimes you get to a position where you're doing well in what you're doing, but you're looking around you and not much has changed, right? Like you're seeing your success in certain areas, but maybe the money isn't coming in or certain things isn't coming in. And we have a hard time waiting for our time to come. Was there ever a time, Julian, that you were maybe laying down in bed, right? And you just had these dreams of things that what could be and what can happen in your life, but you wake up and maybe your situation may not be ideal. Did you have any moments and times like that? And at this stage in your life, what were you dreaming about? What were your thoughts about? What was going through your head at that time? Did you see, obviously you saw the Bolt in the success and the soft and all these different things, but that's their story. This is yours and this is where you were at, right? Did any of that cross your mind? Impatience? Any of that stuff cross your mind?
I'm not really. I think I was impatient in how fast I wanted to do well. But I think, as a youth, you can kind of chalk that up to youthful exuberance. But no, I don't think any of that really bothered me. I was just always trying to, figure out like, how do I get this right? What do I need to do to get to the point where where I want to be at? And as you said, this is my story, so I kind of accept all the bumps in the road that comes along with it. As this is just my path.
You just said bumps in the road, and I think that's something that we can all relate to, the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows, life in general. Julian, if there's someone listening to this, right, and maybe they're going through a tough time, maybe they're dealing with kind of that same mental process that you had post Olympics, thinking about, man, it's tough. I'm just going to do something else. Maybe this isn't for me. Dealing with the pandemic, trying to get the energy and the momentum and the excitement to get back up. And maybe you lost the business during the pandemic and you're trying to gauge it. Whatever the case may be, Julian, what are some things that you would say to that person who may need that word of encouragement? What would you say to them?
I think, first of all, so sometimes it's good to put things to look at things in the most objective way possible, and see if something is or isn't for you. It can be a situation where you keep doing the same thing and it's really not for you, and you would be better served, like way better served, doing something else. That's hard to put into perspective to try to see if that is the case, because we're all like hardwired to think, just work hard and it will work. Just work hard and it will work. But it's not like that for anything that you do. Some people are way better at other things. Some people are way better at track than they are at football. Some people are way better at football. So you might be putting the hard work in the wrong. You might be putting the hard work in the wrong area. So you might have to assess that. But also, the thing with dealing with disappointments is, everybody deals with it. In the moment, you're going to kind of want to look at it and say, why do I have to go through this? But the truth is, everybody goes through disappointment in some way. But it always feels like this kind of disappointment only happens to you. That's just how it feels. As humans, that's how we are programmed to feel.
Yeah.
Right. But the important thing is, we also feel like it's strange. It's almost like we want to stay in that disappointment so we don't have to deal with being, kind of expecting good and fall back into that place. So we kind of rather just stay in that place and not have to deal with, the hope aspect of it. Because that's what kind of makes it feel so much worse. But it's important to not stay down too long and also not stay high too long, because it's important to find the balance and the middle ground in how you live your life, because no extreme is good. You need to find a balance, and it's okay to have ups and it's okay to have downs. You just need to not stay there in either situation too long.
They're definitely gonna come. No person is going to have things go well all of the time. If you do, you're a robot, and you need to tell me your system and what you got going on, right? But at the end of the day, it's very important to know that it's not what happens to you; it's what you choose to do next. I don't ever mean to make anyone feel insensitive when I say that, because there's been some things that you didn't ask for that happened to you, but it did. But you get to choose what you do next. And I think that's the most important thing. I know for me, it's been trying to respond to life and not just react to it. But Julian, last 5 questions, man. Fun 5, shouldn't be too taxing. Should be hopefully easy enough.
All right,
Question 1: if you were trapped on a deserted island for a week and you could only bring 3 things, what are 3 things you're bringing?
My phone, for sure. I'm assuming this island has Wi-Fi. I don't know how deserted it is, but if it has Wi-Fi, definitely my phone. Probably my AirPods or some kind of speakers to play music, and my computer.
Question 2: in the past 5 years, Julian, what has been one lesson that you learned so far throughout that time?
In the past, what, 5 years?
My past 5 years.
They say experience is wasted on the young. I don't remember what the saying is, but certain like experience that I've gained over the past 5 years. I'm very thankful for it, even though it's not. It's probably not all of them aren't positive experiences, but they've definitely taught me a lot. And you don't really learn a lot from like your good experiences. You kind of just take them for what they are and you move on. But when you have bad experience, you put it into perspective and try to figure out stuff, and you end up learning things from that. So I don't know if I could put my finger on like any one specific thing, but it's just experience that I'm thankful for over the last 5 years.
You have to erase one of these from the face of history. Ackee and Saltfish, curry chicken and rice and peas, or stew chicken and rice and peas. Which one?
Stew chicken, easy. Stew chicken.
Easy question.
Easy, that easy.
Question 4. I feel like you're a man who is always thinking of life, right? What is the purpose of life? Things of that nature. If you could sit down, Julian, and have 5 uninterrupted hours with 5 people, who would that 5 people be?
Oh, so it's a good question. I think one person is definitely LeBron James. I feel like it's very interesting how he thinks, especially coming from where he's come from, to be what he is today. So LeBron is definitely one. I'd like to talk to like somebody with certain kind of experience, like the president of the United States. Like I'd love to sit down and talk to like a Barack Obama for like 5 hours, kind of pick their brain. Interestingly enough, I would want to talk to somebody who has been seen as like, not the most desirable person. Because I'd like to get to like understand like how they think, right? I don't know who that would be. But I know that I'd want to talk to somebody that, society on a whole, deems as a bad person.
Yeah.
Could be like I don't know, like probably like Pablo Escobar or somebody like that.
That would be interesting. That would be an interesting.
Yeah. So that would be interesting. Also, It's very, very difficult to just choose 5 though. But I'd like to talk to a woman that has gone through some kind of adversity to make it to where they are now, probably like a Oprah, Oprah Winfrey. And 5th is probably somebody from back in the day, like somebody that was around in like the 1800s to like, or probably like somebody like Julius Caesar, like even further back, like Julius Caesar, like Epictetus, or like one of those kind of people, to kind of see what things were like back in that day, and like how they their thought process and all that.
Now, one of the guys that I would love to sit down with is Machiavelli or Michelevi, just to see how he operated, and Genghis Khan, how they ran and got people to come on board. That whole process of it. Last question, Julian. With everything that you've been through, man, everything from a youth to coming up, everything that you had to experience, the ups, the downs, the highs, the lows, the exciting times, the sad times, the high times, the disappointing times. If there was one word to describe you, what would that one word be? And give me a few sentences behind why that word.
That's a hard question. That's a good one. I would probably say balanced, because I always try, no matter what I'm doing, to find the balance, right? As I was saying to you, you can't stay high too long, you can't stay low too long, and I feel like you live your best life and get have the most enjoyment out of life when you live it that way. And I understand that everybody, has, their things that they're going through, and you should always be aware of stuff like that. Obviously it's easier said than done to like handle certain things, especially when you're going through, tough times. But it's always good to like find a balance. Don't overreact to things. Make sure you measure kind of what you're saying and how you react to certain kind of things, and just find a balance.
Julian, thank you for your time, man. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to come on. I wanted to have you on just so people could see that different perspective of you, and to be able to add more to what people just see on the track and field. But where can people keep in touch with you and keep in contact with you, man? And before we go, I got to say to you, what you're doing on the media side with your videos and stuff, man, that's truly remarkable, bro. And whenever track and field is done, I don't know what avenue that's going to bring to you, but what it's going to be, man, you have a gift with that. And I hope that's something that people tell you enough, because sometimes you don't know what you're good at until somebody does tell you, right? So what you're doing, man, great content. I before I reached out. I didn't know that you made videos. So I was on YouTube and I was watching like 7 back to back. I said, yo, the video cam quality is wicked right now. Right, so for me to you, man, whatever is next, I know track, you still got a lot of time and you're going to continue to be successful at it. 9-8, 9-7 is just down the road because you're close to it. But just know, man, you are way more than an athlete. And when that next chapter comes, you already have an avenue that God is lining up for you. So that's a long-winded answer to say, everybody make sure you go and check out Julian's YouTube page after he plugs out where you can best keep in contact with him.
I appreciate that. I put a lot of work and a lot of effort into my YouTube channel, and I've been, I'm self-taught, YouTube taught. YouTube is basically a university right now. Yeah. And so I've taught myself everything, and I've been working extremely hard at it, and it's something I'm passionate about. So I really, appreciate the fact that people, kind of tune into it and really vibe with it. So, thanks for that. But where people can keep in touch with me is my Instagram. I'm on Instagram more than any other platform, I think. Mm-hmm. So my Instagram is at Julian Forte. Just one word, at Julian Forte. You can keep in touch with me there. I will be posting videos on YouTube. I'm also on Twitter at Julian_Forte. Somebody stole Julian Forte and they don't even use it. And I'm on TikTok at Julian_Forte as well. So, those are my handles.
Julian, much love again, man. Appreciate the time, bro. And stay healthy, and we'll be in touch soon, man.